Well, hey there, diet disruptors. Carrie here. And I have today the episode that I think most of you have been waiting for. Really, truly. Our top three clients at Disrupting Nutrition are doctors, nurses, and teachers. And today I have one of those doctors on, Dr. Vanoker. We're going to call her Ann today, but hello, Dr. Ann. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am so good. I am so excited about what we're going to talk about, what people are going to realize, and just to share your story and your journey. I mean, I say this all the time that doctors just don't have the training in nutrition that they need to have. And that was true for you. So tell us a little bit about your story and what, as a physician, I mean, why didn't you know more about nutrition and what to do for your own body?
I've been a yo-yo dieter, a heavy, light my whole life. Um, Medical school was about 30 years ago, and they didn't teach us a thing about nutrition. Not a thing. You didn't, if you were overweight, it had to be your fault. You just weren't doing things right.
Mhm.
Um, Calories in, calories out. It just didn't make any sense. And I've tried lots of things over the years, all sorts of different plans, the calories in, calories out for years. I did Nutrisystem. I did a bunch of different plans, some that worked for a couple of years, always fell back.
Mhm.
And I kept looking because I said, it can't be that I'm weak. I can't follow through. There's got to be something different. So I've been looking and I find different things. And then I stumbled onto disruptive nutrition and I said, this sounds different. Let me look into it.
But isn't
But
it amazing to me as you're looking for different things? It's like you're looking on the Facebook, the Google, and you're a doctor, right? And one of the things I always say is like, well, you're always kind of kept up to date with like the newest medication that's up there, right? And when we want a doctor with 30 years of experience, doctors with a lot of experience in our eyes are people that really understand the body and understand what I need. And I know that that's true. I mean, your experience is incredible. And where does the updated stuff come in when, especially, I mean, let's be honest, blood sugar is not an updated concept, right? Like we've always known how important blood sugar is, but as we really have learned how pivotal it is for every aspect of our health, including weight, it's so crazy to me that the latest drugs that have come out for weight loss, but you don't necessarily know about what we need to do for our body. Is that mind blowing just to me, or is that mind
I,
blowing to you too?
I think it's because of the drug companies. I mean, they do studies. They're the ones that they're spending money.
Yeah.
You've got the food industry that's spending money trying to convince you that the low fat food is the thing to do.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's teaching nutrition in that same big way and giving doctors that information.
Oh my gosh. And your husband's a doctor.
He's an internist, and believes in the calories in, calories out. It's got to do with what you put in your mouth and how much you move, and it's not.
I
It's
mean,
not.
so when you were originally talking to us, now what I love about kind of the way that this all played out was you're a doctor and you're going to make sure that you do your research and feel really comfortable before you jump into something. And you've also been dieting for decades and you were like, you knew enough that you wanted to be done, right? But you
I,
were worried about telling your husband a little bit around this. So talk to us about that.
so I spoke with a couple of the different people that question you first, and explain the program. And when I was told the dollar amount, I got a little bit like, oh my goodness. It's not that I have to ask permission to spend that money, but it was a big investment, and I didn't know exactly how to approach it because I've tried so many things, and I have spent money, not quite as much, but I've spent money over the years, over and over and over again. I watched. You had a seminar that explained things and sort of boiled down the whole program, and it just sounded different, and it sounded like the answer to some of the puzzle pieces. Because yes, I could follow a diet plan. If somebody says you eat this, and this, and you do this every 3 hours, simple. But I've done that before, and after a year or two, I stopped doing it,
Yeah.
and the extra pieces seemed to make sense. So I finally, you said, I'm going to do this. So got him on the phone and I said, listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to join this plan. You know, it's going to cost X amount of money. And he's like, that's a lot of money. I said, I need to do this. And he says, but you've done things before. You've spent so much money. I said, this is different. I said, and I'm not asking permission. I'm just letting you know that I am doing this. So when you see the charge on the credit card, you'll understand, but I need to do this for myself. And he said, okay. And
Good
I
for
have to
you.
tell you, after the last 2 months, he's seen the changes. There's no question about it.
Mhm. When you talk, I love that because it's like, I say this all the time to women, especially women that are like, I have to talk to my husband, and I get it. I mean, my husband and I have a completely open relationship around making sure we talk about things like that, because it's not even just the investment of time. It's also this belief and hope that something is going to actually work for the long term, and to waste more time, which we never get back, to me is a scarier thing than anything else, you know? But when you feel empowered, I say this a lot, like if your child needed something and you knew in your heart your child needed it and your husband either wasn't convinced or wasn't sure, you would be like, we're doing this. Like this has to be done. And we advocate and we are empowered for our child. And it's really hard for us to do it for ourselves. It took you a little while before
Yeah, but
you really felt like, until you did that workshop with us, that you
yep.
really felt like, yes, I'm empowered enough to actually be, be so sure that I would just say, I'm doing this. I'm not asking for permission. But here is why, and here's how we're going to do this. What a shift in mindset you had.
Well, that was the biggest thing. I think it's the mindset, and I think that's the biggest piece that I'm learning so far from this program is the way you think. It's yes, the concepts around the eating make sense scientifically, but there's so much more that I think we just don't put any effort in, or we don't even know how to do it.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? That uh in order to be a doctor, in order to go to medical school, in order to raise a family while being a doctor, in order to have a husband who's a doctor, you're not any it's not working hard and showing up is not actually is what you do, right? So it's so incredible to realize that when we're learning about our bodies and developing and cultivating this relationship between us and our bodies, that our mindset is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle.
I think it's the biggest piece. I really do.
Did you realize that before?
No, I don't think I really understood. You know, before it was always I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight. And this is no, I want to be healthy. And I think the side effect is the losing weight, but I I feel better, I have more energy. There's so much more that I'm noticing, and I don't think I paid attention to that in all of those other things.
It's interesting that you say that, because when women tell me that it worked before, keto, fasting, eating 1,200 calories, like whatever it was, right? It worked. And I always say, what's your definition of working? And it's always about losing weight. And I'm like, there's plenty of skinny, unhealthy people. I mean, you're an oncologist. Like it's not like you only see people who are sick that are overweight, right? There are plenty of people who are not healthy and are not necessarily overweight. Would you agree?
True, true. I think the majority of people, you know, you wouldn't look at them and say they're overweight, but they're not healthy.
Exactly. So that can't be the goal of that, because you can do that in so many unhealthy ways. But I think that when you really look at an approach that forces you to see other aspects, because women will say, I need to lose this amount of weight because that's when I felt my best. And I always say, were you dieting then? Yes. Right. And very often the weight loss makes us feel like we feel good, but at the end of the day, it's a little bit more of that adrenaline where you're seeing weight loss. Because I actually just had a conversation with a woman. I had never met her before, so I wasn't sure how much I should push. But she went on Ozempic, and there's a brand new drug that just came out, another one that's going to be approved for weight loss. And it's all around this kind of quick fix. And she's like, I lost 12 pounds. She literally hadn't eaten all day. We were eating gourmet burgers around a fire, and she didn't eat it because she didn't even want it. And I thought, what kind of way of life is this? And this is not healthy, right? But
Yeah.
that's what she was given. And so I think your point around like not even realizing how good you feel now and how you really felt when you lost weight before is important.
I
So
think I'm focusing on those things now that I didn't
yeah,
really think about before.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So let's talk about the idea of some of these medical interventions when it comes to weight loss. And I'm not saying that you're an expert in any of them, but the pharmaceutical industry really has you all kind of knowledgeable about this kind of stuff in a lot of ways. But now that you know what you know, right? And that you've experienced what you've experienced in terms of the mindset and the shifts of thinking about you and your body, how do you compare that to the decision of here, go on Ozempic or any of these other ones to suppress your appetite and just not eat, right? Like where do you sit now a couple months later compared to maybe where you were before? I don't
You
know.
know, so I actually know somebody that I have a working relationship who probably about a year ago had mentioned that he had lost weight because he was on Ozempic. I think probably because his blood sugars were a little out of whack. And he told me that his wife was annoyed because they went traveling in Europe and he just didn't have an appetite, so he didn't want to eat. And and she wanted to go and eat and share things, and he didn't want to do that. And I was like, I was intrigued. I didn't really know. And then I realized Ozempic is it's an injection. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem like a thing that I would want to do. And you hear about all these celebrities. Um, I like to eat. I like to be able to go out to dinner and participate in things. So I think, the medicines may have you lose weight, but at what cost?
Right.
And if you can, if
And
you
you have to
can,
be on it forever. And I
because
know somebody on it and she keeps getting inner ear infections.
I,
Like,
I don't
how
know,
is it?
but it's a medicine. I like, I just think that if most people don't want to take drugs. If you don't want to take drugs, you don't want to take medicine, then you need to take your health into your own hands and learn the basics and enjoy life. And I don't feel deprived in any of the way I'm eating. It's I think it's maybe the easy way out for some people. I'll just do an injection and I'll lose weight because that's going to make me look better. I don't know if they feel any better. Honestly, I don't know.
No, well, that's my point, really. You can't possibly, because your body cannot thrive when you're not fueling it. It just can't. And no medication is going to allow you to become healthier in that way. Like the medications, and you know this, they're not meant to necessarily, they're meant to either maintain, there's this phrase around like name it, blame it, tame it. Right. And when it comes to medication, we're going to name what's going on. We're going to blame it on whatever, and then use the medication very often to tame uh some sort of a situation that you're in, but very rarely are they meant to completely heal. Right now, especially when you're not working on the inside, right? What you put in your body matters, which is why it always floors me that the medical profession does not know more about nutrition, because food can be poison or food can absolutely be medicine. And imagine knowing the combination of what the medicine will do versus what you can do in conjunction with food. And uh when it comes to weight loss, there's no way a drug is going to heal your body. And then you have to be on it forever.
Yeah.
So there's three questions that we always ask, right? And I know you've heard these questions before, but when I think about prescription drugs for weight loss, you can't answer yes to any of these. So is it based in science, designed for your body to thrive? No way. It's based in science. It's all based in
Yeah.
science, right? But it's not designed for your body to thrive. Can you do it forever? And it's like, do you really want to be on that forever in order to maintain weight loss when in 2 months, and you're in a completely different place than you were? And when I talked
100%.
to that woman with Ozempic, she's like, I lost 12 pounds. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I can, my clients can do that and they can eat the burger. Okay. Three, would you let your kids do that? I mean, if you wouldn't let your kids do that, why are you doing it for yourself? And to me, it's like once you understand that, it becomes even more outrageous to me that this is such a thing. And I gotta believe that in some ways, now that you have a different message for people in with some of this. Would you agree?
100%. And it's costly. I mean, the medicines aren't cheap. Even if you have, health insurance and drug insurance, it's an expense that I think potentially may be unnecessary. I mean, there's still patients that are probably going to need medication, despite all of the best efforts. There may be reasons why they need medicine,
Yep.
but the
Absolutely.
majority of people don't need the medicine if they do the right thing to advocate for their own health.
I mean, and don't you want to know that, like, and this is the way that I feel. So as an oncologist, for example, we had a client who worked with us, and about, I would say, 4 months in, she had seen so much success. She was doing so well. It was really the first time she understood food and her body, and it was just such an incredible experience. And then about 4 months in, she started getting an unbelievable amount of bloat, and her stomach just expanded dramatically. Well, her doctor didn't know what she had been doing for the last 4 months in terms of taking care of her body and all of that. So when she called her, she was just sort of like, "Yeah, it's probably what you're eating." And kind of gave her a few little, like, take an antacid and maybe cut your carbs a little, and kind of blew it off. Well, she called me and I'm like, you need to call her back and you need to tell her what you've been doing. You have been setting a foundation of health, that these symptoms are not normal now, right? Like, this is not just normal stuff. She called her back, told her exactly what I told her to say about what she's been doing for the last 4 months. Her doctor was like, "Well, I didn't realize that. Let's get you in stage 3 cancer." I mean, and that, I guess, to my point, is like, when you have that foundation, then the medical stuff, it's like, you're doing what's right for your body. This other stuff, if you need medication or a diagnosis like that, then is totally understandable, or like you want to move into that direction. But without that foundation, it's really hard to know what you need or what you don't need. Who's to say that in a couple of months, like you, when you learn how to eat in a way that serves your body and work through your mindset, that you would never have needed the medication,
Right.
And who's to say that, like, this doctor really thought she was overweight and these kind of symptoms were just a result of an unhealthy body, and she would have kind of blown it off. So, like, this as a foundational process to me is so important.
And I think we're also learning to understand our body and understand what we're feeling. So this person that you just said, she knew something was not right. That
Yep.
she's been doing on a path and everything's going, something's different, which
Yep.
it alerted her. Where I think most people are not really, they don't know their body enough, and they don't realize that there's something that's different because they're just so out of tune.
Yeah. I mean, when you really think about, you're a little bit numb to all the realizations of your body. And I think that that's what you were even saying before too. You weren't even focusing on some of the aspects of the non-scale victories that were actually so much more of an indicator of health than just the weight loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I love that. So what do you think, as you're going through this whole process, what do you say now to patients, or even to your husband, or people around you? Because as a doctor, you're not a doctor just like during the day. You're always a doctor. People know you're a doctor, right? And so, like, how do you foresee your conversations with people going now that you know what you know?
Well, it's different. I mean, people will come up to me now. I don't have a scale anymore, so I don't know how much I've lost, because that was something that was a very difficult thing for me to do, since it in past had always been, how many pounds am I losing? But people will notice the changes in me and ask, and I explain that I've learned how to eat. This is there's this great way of looking at things, that you don't need medication. So people notice and they ask, and I explain, and it's sort of interesting, because maybe because I am a physician, they listen a little bit more than if I was just somebody with the next greatest thing.
Yeah.
One of the first couple of weeks that I was on the plan and I was with my husband, um, it was 3 hours, so I was about to, he said, well, we're going to have dinner in a while. I said, I have to eat every 3 hours. That's what I'm doing now. Last week I was there, so now the end of 2 months, not a question. He says, oh, you have to time your meal. So, well, he knows now. He knows exactly what I need to do and how I need to do it, and he's on board. He may not do it himself. We're not together enough for him to see how to do it. But he understands that this is working, and I'm feeling better, and I'm looking better, and I have more energy, and clearly something's good.
And what I love is sometimes people will say, I just can't do that. I can't eat every 3 hours. But I have two arguments. One, if doctors, lawyers, teachers, people with some of the busiest schedules can do this, and it's not an issue. But the bigger piece is like your body tells you that it's time to eat. And we know how to do it in such a simple way. But would you say it's not so much about, oh my gosh, I have to eat, but it's like, oh, I know I need to eat. Like I want to eat. It's time to eat. Not because my watch tells me, but my body is talking to me.
Yesterday, I had my mammogram, and I was there a lot longer than I anticipated. And I should have been home so that it was 3.5 hours. And by 3 hours, I was still sitting in the waiting room for my sonogram. And I realized I'm ready to eat. Like, luckily, I would made it home by 4 hours, because by then I was starting to like, yeah, I really need to have my meal. I couldn't find the bar that I knew was in my bag until I got home, and it somehow ended up in my wallet. So as I'm sitting there rifling through, I'm like, I was sure I had one. Where is it? But my body was saying it's time. It's the right time to eat. You need your next meal. It's usually easy to do unless you lose your bar in your bag.
And I love that having a protein bar on you just allows you to have a quick bite if you're not around something, even a half of a bar just buys you another hour of time. It's just like if you
Yeah.
and your husband were going to eat dinner at 6, but you needed to eat at 5. I just have like a half a bar real quick because
Yeah.
I don't want to feel that. I mean, when you dip your blood sugar, and as a physician, you know the power of blood sugar, but once you dip it, it's not even, it just feels yucky. And you don't want to feel yucky. I want to feel satisfied all the time. And then we overeat and it just becomes this crazy cycle. And I love that you're able to do this with your busy lifestyle, but even more importantly now, because you can do something for yourself, but now you are such an influencer to all of your patients and all of the people around you, and you have a different message to share now. It's
And
so
it's funny because I used to have like late evening cravings and things. And once I started to eat so that my blood sugar was stable, I never have that. I don't feel like I need the little bit of chocolate at night. It's
Mhm.
just, I don't feel deprived, and I don't feel like, gee, I need something anymore. And I didn't realize that it was the fluctuations in the blood sugar. They don't teach you that. They don't teach you that you're going to notice changes like that you may be getting sleepy or hangry when your sugars are going up and down.
That is I mean, that is right. I did a podcast episode a while ago called Are You Ghosting Your Body? And it's so amazing how cravings, energy, sleep patterns, all of these things, when we think it's willpower or we think it's just the stress of our life, has so much to do with the foundational concept of blood sugar. Even one of our coaches is a diabetic educator, and she works in the VA and she works with diabetic patients. That's her job. And when she came to me years ago because she needed to lose weight and get healthy, and she was just so frustrated because just like you, she had tried everything. She works with blood sugar and she only looked at it as reactive,
Yeah.
never as something that just everybody needs. And as soon as she started doing the stuff that she actually taught to her patients, it was amazing. It's just I don't know. It to me, it's foundational. We need to have the same influence as the drug companies and the pharmaceutical companies do. Maybe someday.
Yeah, but that's the problem. They have money, and and they lobby, and they do all these things. And none of us really, when you go through medical school and you practice, you don't realize that that's where a lot of it is coming from, though.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's this whole other industry that's really not about our health
No,
per
no.
se. It is about the dollar. So I'm so excited that you are a part of our family, that you trusted us. Now, so Anne had talked to a few coaches and had kind of been looking at other programs and stuff like that. So talk a little bit about some of the other things that you researched and what the philosophies were, because even one of them was another doctor and things like that. And what didn't feel right to you about that?
So so the months, I've gone up and down my whole life. I was actually like one of my lower weights before the pandemic, and then the pandemic, like it did for everybody, kind of threw life into a tizzy. I stopped exercising.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, it's time. So same way I found disruptive nutrition, Instagram ads and Facebook ads, I found several other programs. And there was one program run by a physician who had said how she'd had trouble her whole life and whatnot. And she had some seminars that I listened to. And it was basically I guess premise behind that was that you eat 3 meals a day, no snacking. It was protein heavy with a little bit of carbs, but you couldn't eat in between. And I said that just doesn't make sense. Then there was
A lot
another
of
lady,
rules. Like we can't have. The rules drive me crazy.
and then another one was another woman who, touted the blood sugar stabilization, but the premise was intermittent fasting, and like big intermittent fasting. And I have done that, a little bit of that in the past, and that's not for me. You can't eat for more than 8 hours in a given day. It just doesn't make sense.
When you wear a continuous glucose monitor and actually see your blood sugar, I don't understand how anybody can tout, especially for women, intermittent fasting. It throws everything off, but we see the data on our continuous glucose monitors about fasting.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to me. So crazy.
So yeah, I am
But
interested one of these days of getting a CGM just to see, because you don't really know what your sugars are doing unless you monitor it.
right. But what I love is that do know your intuitiveness
Yes.
about your body right now is just incredible.
Yes.
So the workshop that you went to is one that we offered a few months ago, and I rarely, that was the only time I've ever done that. So I think it's so cool that you happen to be, I always say like everything happens for a reason, and timing is pretty cool. But it happened to be the one time I was doing it. It was right around that same time that you were talking to us. So I'm so grateful that that timing all worked out and that you're part of our community. But for anybody's that's listening, I will do another workshop. We're planning on when that's going to be. But if you want a recording of that workshop, we have a whole portal in our learning portal of the workshop, plus all the bonus tools and resources. So just like Anne did, where she really started to understand what we were talking about, if you're interested in that, just comment workshop and we'll send you the info for how you can grab that. But Anne, I love you and I think you're fabulous. And I'm so grateful that you put your trust in us. And whether you like it or not, you're part of our family forever. So we might have to have you on again and give some more updates, especially as you share more with your clients or your patients, and we continue to build this movement together. I'm super, super grateful for you.
Well, I'm so happy that I found this, because it has been a life-changing thing for me, and I am going to be part of the family forever. You guys are stuck with me.
Yep. Well, that's why, we can't invite everyone in because we got to like you. And we like you a lot, Dr. Anne.
Well,
Well,
thank
thank you
you.
so much. Keep living your best life. And I don't know, we'll see you back in our group all the time.
Okay, great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dan.
Have a great day.